You sit in a room with 30 other people while a clock ticks toward the end of the hour. You wait for a signal before you stand. In his 1970 book Future Shock, Alvin Toffler describes early industrial factories where managers struggled to synchronize human biology with steam engines. A foreman stands beside a massive iron loom holding a brass pocket watch. He pulls a chain to sound a whistle across the valley.
That noise across the valley was not meant to celebrate the end of labor. It was a mechanical command designed to train farmers to drop their tools on a schedule. This exact architecture of control operates over your head today. You walked into an office building on Tuesday morning and took your seat without anyone giving you an explicit order. The whistle is gone. The conditioning remains inside your mind. The factory moved inside your head.
The architecture of modern education was engineered to produce a specific type of citizen. You will understand how the men who built the curriculum guaranteed a permanent supply of compliant workers. This was not about teaching you how to build your own wealth. They mapped out a pathway that requires continuous labor to survive the monthly expenses. A person who controls their own time cannot be governed by the anxiety of a missing paycheck. The rhythm of the classroom was the first psychological cage they built. The managers of the early 20th century realized that raw force was an expensive way to secure labor. In his 1992 book, Dumbing Us Down, John Taylor Gatto outlines his decades of teaching inside the system. He describes a child sitting at a wooden desk under fluorescent lights. The child raises a hand to ask permission to use the bathroom. The teacher nods. Gatto noticed that this physical routine destroyed the instinct for independent movement. The child learns that natural bodily functions require approval from a certified authority figure. Think of a wild horse broken for the saddle over a long summer. The resistance fades. A profound shift occurs when a human being accepts that an external schedule dictates their personal reality. You experience this when you count your limited vacation days on a digital calendar. You stared at the screen last month and calculated if you could afford to take a Thursday off to rest your exhausted body. You checked the project timeline and decided to wait until November. You traded your physical recovery for the approval of a manager who does not know your middle name. The training worked. The desk shaped the adult. They graded your gradual surrender. That physical compliance was the foundation of the project. They needed to install a mechanism that would make you beg for the judgment that keeps you trapped. The evaluation of your worth was the next psychological territory they claimed. In his 1975 book, Discipline and Punish, Michel Foucault details the shift from public punishment to quiet institutional observation. An examiner sits at the front of a silent hall, watching rows of heads bent over paper. The examiner holds a pen and a ledger of acceptable answers. The students do not look at each other. They understand that their future access to food and shelter depends on writing the exact response the examiner expects. The examination isolates the individual. It removes collaboration and replaces it with a desperate need to align with the standard model. You see this isolation when coworkers hide their salary figures from each other. Two people sit in adjacent cubicles doing the exact same tasks for 50 hours a week. One makes 20% less than the other. They eat lunch together every day, but refuse to speak of money because the company handbook forbids it. You sit in that chair and fear breaking the invisible rules that govern your income. You guard the secrets of the people who own your time. You protect the warden's secrets.
Isolating you through fear was effective for managing behavior. But the architects of this system knew that people might stop fearing the judgment if the reward was small. They had to redefine the reward itself. In his 1899 book, The Theory of the Leisure Class, Thorstein Veblen observes a man standing in front of his modest home. He watches his neighbor arrive in a carriage made from imported mahogany.
The man looks down at his own plain wooden cart and feels a sudden, intense wave of shame. He resolves to work double the hours to purchase a mahogany carriage of his own. The genius of the modern curriculum was binding your self-worth to the acquisition of standardized luxury. They taught you to trade your irreplaceable hours for objects that signal status to strangers. Your exhaustion becomes the engine of their profit. Think of the person who gets a raise and upgrades their car lease the same week. The extra money bypasses any account that generates wealth. You felt this pull when you walked past that display window and convinced yourself the expensive watch would command respect in the boardroom. You handed over a month of your life for a piece of metal. You bought the chain and called it an achievement. The wage buys the leash.
Making you chase status symbols secured your immediate paycheck. The final phase of the design required locking down your future decades before you entered the labor market. In his 2011 book, Debt, The First 5,000 Years, David Graeber traces the history of human obligation and morality. He points to an ancient Sumerian farmer staring at a clay tablet. The tablet records a loan of grain that the farmer cannot repay after a drought. The farmer must pledge his own children as servants to the creditor until the harvest yields enough surplus. Debt transforms a free human into an instrument of production for someone else. The modern education system masks this ancient trap under the label of investment. They tell 18-year-olds that borrowing tens of thousands of dollars is the only respectable path to a stable life. The signature on that loan document seals the trap.
You remember the day you sat in a financial aid office and signed a contract you did not understand. You looked at a number on a screen and believed the degree would dissolve the principal balance. Every month, you log into an application and send a portion of your labor to a silent institution. You make every payment because the penalty is ruin. The diploma finances the chains. Securing your future labor through debt was a masterpiece of social engineering. The trap required one final psychological layer to ensure you never tried to organize a quiet escape. In his 1932 essay, In Praise of Idleness, Bertrand Russell examines a factory worker walking home in the dark. The man has spent 14 hours performing one single repetitive motion on an assembly line. He falls into a chair and stares blankly at the wall. The worker lacks the energy to read or speak to his family. All his mental resources were extracted during the shift. The system relies on this total depletion of your mental bandwidth. If you are tired from the commute and the pointless meetings, you will lack the quiet hours needed to build an alternative path. The schedule is heavy by design. They drain your energy so you cannot question the architecture. You collapsed on your couch last Wednesday evening with your coat on. You ordered food on your phone because cooking required too much mental effort. You watched hours of bright, moving images until you fell asleep. The next morning, the alarm reset the cycle. You possess the intelligence to break out of the financial maze, but you lack the basic physical energy to start digging. Fatigue secures the prison perimeter.
Keeping you tired prevented rebellion in the evening. The architects needed to ensure you would distrust your independent ability to learn during the weekend. In his 1971 book, Deschooling Society, Illich exposes the institutional monopoly on knowledge. He describes a neighborhood where citizens have lost the ability to heal themselves or build their own homes. A woman stands in a sterile waiting room holding a numbered paper ticket.
She waits for a certified professional to give her permission to understand her own physical pain. The school system operates on this exact same premise. It teaches you that knowledge requires validation from an institution and a stamped seal. You grow older believing that complex financial strategies are restricted to experts in glass towers. You surrender your natural curiosity to a designated professional class.
Think of the moment you decided against starting a small business because you did not have a specialized business degree. You stared at a blank registration form and convinced yourself the terminology was beyond your capability. You closed the window and went back to your secure salaried position. You outsourced your financial destiny to people who profit from your confusion. They sold you a profound lack of confidence. Complexity protects the ruling class.
Convincing you that wealth generation was too complex for the common mind kept you away from the controls. But the money supply itself was being manipulated while you were studying for standardized tests. In his 1755 book, Essay on the Nature of Trade in General, Richard Cantillon explains how money moves through an economy. He depicts an aristocrat standing near the king when new gold coins are minted and distributed.
The aristocrat spends the new gold before the merchants realize the total supply of money has expanded. By the time the extra gold reaches the farmers in the distant fields, the prices of basic goods have doubled. The people closest to the creation of money capture its entire value. The people at the bottom of the chain pay the hidden tax. Your salary remains stationary while the basic prices move upward.
You stood in the grocery store aisle last month, holding a basic staple item. You noticed the package was smaller and the price was higher. You did the math in your head and realized your annual raise vanished due to the rising cost of existing. You placed the item in your basket and felt a quiet dread about the years ahead. You increased your pace just to stay in the exact same place. The system prints your poverty.
The entire structure of your early years was calibrated to keep you blind to the actual mechanics of the economic machine. The classroom, the grading metrics, the standardized loans, and the relentless daily schedule were assembled with brutal precision to strip away your natural autonomy. They replaced your instinct for freedom with an artificial dependency on a monthly wage. You were never broken by accident. The design functioned without a single flaw.
Tomorrow morning, you will wake up and trade another piece of your finite existence to pay the interest on a cage they built. A small fraction of the population examined these walls and realized the bricks were made of paper. The group that studies the architecture of this trap is expanding right here on this screen. Stay close to the fire. Welcome to the side that sees.